one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering subreddits for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into the depths of the Magic the Gathering subreddits, find those salty posts, haul them back up, and see what we get. We want to talk about these posts, talk about salty moments, and talk about table dynamics and gameplay dynamics for the game EDH that we love so very much. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hey, guys.
Yo,
indeed.
hey.
Before we get into anything, can we just talk about how fucking dope our new art is for the podcast?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can absolutely talk about that.
Holy shit. It's insane. It is like so much better beyond like anything I could have imagined. It's crazy.
Well, can we talk about how it just happened? Like, because we were like, Sam does all our art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
So
then somebody,
Yeah, Sam does all our editing too. If any listeners are really into audio editing.
That is one thing I may not give up because I do love editing. But yeah, it just kind of like happened serendipitously. So Devin Burnett, who is an amazing tattoo artist in North Carolina, he's in Asheville. So go hit him up if you're in the area. He's a listener of the podcast and heard that episode and reached out and was like, hey, I heard you guys don't have a ton of time to do art. I'd love to help out. And we were like, cool, man. That sounds fucking amazing. We were just sort of like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, you know, we're working on this new art. I was like, do we ask Devin if he wants to like do a rendition of our podcast art? Because we already had something planned, right? And we were like, yeah, let's just do it. Like, let's see what happens. And Devin came back to us with the most fucking fire art I've ever seen. He did this like amazing rendition of the original Howling Salt Mine podcast art in his like amazing traditional tattoo style. Tony, what's that called?
it's traditional.
Do you even watch Ink Masters, Tony? You brag
It's traditional,
about
but
it all the time.
it's like open palette. I feel like he listens to this, so I'm gonna feel bad if I don't say it correctly. Yeah, I mean, it's just fucking sick.
Yeah, it's
like
so
really
fucking
good.
dope.
It fits into that like style. And just to make sure that like the fans got it, his handle is j.d.burnett on Instagram.
He'll be tagged in the show notes.
Yeah.
Pretty much from here on out. So, you know, check out the stuff that he does. He's an awesome artist, super cool guy. He listens with his son. So shout out to you, Devin, listening right now. Shout out to your son, who's definitely not 10, definitely old enough to be listening to us swearing all the fucking time. Just erase that from my mind. So yeah, I'm not thinking about it when we're making lewd jokes.
I think the other cool thing about it is that like the second we saw it, so like Sam has some tattoos, but like neither Mike nor I have one. And we instantly all were like, yo, we should get this. Like,
Yeah.
this should like actually happen for real.
Oh man, do we mention the tattoo challenge?
No, I don't want it to happen before I'm ready.
No,
You don't want it to be out there?
Nope, I don't.
Because then I'm
want
a
it to be out
loser
there.
if I don't do it, but I can't go
You
back
have
on it
to
because
do
I've
it.
claimed it now.
You have to do it anyways.
It's already have at 10,000 followers. I told Sam
Subscribers, like podcast subscribers, 10,000 podcast subscribers.
I was like, Sam, I'll get a tattoo of a salt shaker. That would be much bigger than just a salt shaker.
Yeah, this is a much bigger tattoo.
This is like
than a
a
salt
put it
shaker.
on your thigh, like forearm kind of thing.
Put it on my
like,
fucking cheek. Yeah, I mean, I do have tattoos, and I'm fucking gonna get this as a tattoo one day. Unless the podcast tanks in like 3 months and we never do it again, I'm fucking getting it.
Even if we do.
Your Patreon support goes directly to making Sam get this tattoo.
Oh man, but I mean, we're just so stoked to have it. I mean, it's amazing. Obviously, you guys probably noticed that we updated from the old artifact card frame to like the more modern card frame too, which we felt was like appropriate. It's kind of like the next version of the card that's coming out.
Yeah.
If you guys miss the old art, we'll do some stuff with it every once in a while for like nostalgia's sake, but we're pretty primed on this new art. So that's going to be like our new thing moving forward.
That's more generous. I was going to be like, sucks to suck.
Yeah.
You like that old shit? Get over it.
Yeah, right. Just get over it. And if you're curious about that art that never came to be, maybe one day you'll see it. Who knows? Maybe like a playmat one day. We've kind of joked about. So we'll see.
That could be the 100,000 marker.
Oh, we'll do that way before then. Are you kidding me? 100,000.
Don't tell them that. They don't know.
So other than the new art, you've probably noticed that this isn't a typical episode. This is another mail time episode where we are going to be reading listener submitted questions, listener submitted mail, and we're going to get into it.
Hell yeah.
Woo!
Here's the salt that never faults. It makes me want to tap my vault. When it comes, I must exalt salt.
So good.
How long did you spend writing that? That's great.
That's pretty great, though. Now you just gotta auto tune it and make it just like the actual like Blue's Clues mail time thing.
Why was I off pitch?
The
fuck, Tony.
Now we have another nice thing to be exposed to a suit for as well.
Come at me, Nickelodeon. Oh shit, that's Viacom. Never mind. Don't come at me.
It's who?
Viacom.
Viacom?
One of those like super companies that just fucking owns everything.
Oh, I feel like all the old Dragon Ball Z games would always start when they were loading up on the load screen and be like Viacom.
Really?
And then, like
Viacom?
other things. I think so. Like Budokai Tenkaichi 2. Fans out there, let me know if I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. But I think there'd be like a Capcom and then also a Viacom. I think it would be Viacom first, then Capcom and something else.
I don't know. Well, I'm not going to look it up now, but I'm suspect of that.
Well, let's fucking get it rolling, baby.
Let's get it rolling. Oh, what salt? You guys know. All right, we're moving on. We have other things to talk about. Okay. Our first bit of fan mail comes to us from our friend Lycane. This is a return. You will recognize that name from our first mail time episode. Lycane actually sent us another one. So let's get into it. This is titled WOTC Hates Hexproof. And the email goes, "Howdy, HSM. It's me again with another short story of salt-induced rage. This involves the same player from my salty confessional and my interactions with him in a game with two new players. I had a feeling he wouldn't hold back and make these newbies cry. So to keep things interesting, I went with a more political approach. I played Brina the Demagogue. Fucking love Brina. Shout out to Brina. The other players were Kinnan, Yannette, and Ural. Throughout the game, I played Promise of Loyalty. Yannette casts a meat hook massacre. Kinnan had a leadership vacuum. I mean, the art even has Ural yeeting back to the command zone. Let's just say the Ural player was not very happy, kept asking how his hexproof commander kept getting dealt with throughout the game. We explained that there are plenty of cards that get around hexproof and more are being printed. The Ural player responded with, WOTC must hate hexproof. This makes Ural a suboptimal commander now. Is he right? Is Ural suboptimal or is he just being salty? Stay salty, Lycane. So the biggest question on everybody's lips is, who is Ural? What is Ural?
And it's on their lips, not on their mind.
People say that. People say on their lips.
You do.
The full name of this card is Ural the Mist Stalker. And this is a 5/5 legendary creature beast. It costs Naya and 2 generic mana, so 5 mana total. Ural the Miststalker can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control, and Ural gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. So this is a Naya Voltron commander. You're dropping fat auras on it. making it unblockable, giving it trample, stuff like that. And it's got like a pseudo hexproof. It actually, I was about to say it isn't printed with hexproof, but it has been reworded, re-keyworded to have hexproof with modern printings. This person is pretty salty about getting hit with things like Meat Hook Massacre, Leadership Vacuum, these effects that remove creatures, remove commanders without explicitly targeting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's becoming almost more and more common as a result of like hexproof. Like, why have something that targets when I could just have something that usually wipes the board? You can usually find something that's like one-sided and like benefits you. Like, I find myself removing that kind of stuff from decks. Like, single target removal feels so bad when you can't fucking use it on the thing that you need to use it on.
Yeah.
In response to the key question of the post too, of does WOTC hate hexproof? They absolutely do, so much so that they've decided to start printing nerfed versions of it in Ward.
That is such a good point, Mike. That's such a good point.
I do think WOTC hates hexproof, but I don't think it's because I think it's because hexproof is
OP.
So damn good. Yeah, hexproof is just really, really strong when 80% of the stuff that does get your commander is suddenly gone. That's pretty crazy.
They should just bring back more Shroud.
Well, that's where it started, right? Like they started with Shroud, and then hexproof was like the buffed version of Shroud, and then they're like, oh, too much.
Well, hexproof was the version that didn't feel dumb because you couldn't like do stuff with your own things. Try wombo comboing with like creatures when you have lightning greaves on and you don't have another creature to bounce to, and then it's like a whole thing. Yeah, I've whipped on Sylvala many a time because all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I can't target Sylvala to untap her because she's shrouded right now.
I do want to point out that Leadership Vacuum does have Ural getting yeeted into like a vortex in the art. I do want to read this one just because it's cool. Leadership Vacuum is a blue instant that costs 1 blue and 2 generic mana. Target player returns each commander they control from the battlefield to the command zone, and then you draw a card. So it cantrips as well.
Huh.
It's interesting because it targets the player, but 3 mana for that effect. I mean, to get around hexproof, obviously that's a fantastic thing to have, but that kind of, it's not like the greatest card, I would say. It's an uncommon.
It's a baby rift for 1 more mana that draws you a card.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good way of looking at it.
And it doesn't put it in their hand. It makes it cost more still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it puts it back to the command zone.
Like,
right.
That's way better than like, I mean, that feels better than most blue just like bounce spells, specifically for commander, right?
Yeah.
So like when you play me,
solid.
run this because every single one of my decks is like a linchpin commander. So like that'll hurt because then I gotta cast them again.
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and Mike, you and I can just buy some copies to slot in our decks. The fuck over Tony. Tony, what other cards ruin your strategies?
Also, take that, partner commanders. Finally, the answer that we've needed.
I was thinking the same thing. It's like, man, it'd be nice if they were playing partners because you get a twofer,
Or if they've taken someone else's commander. Spicy tech.
Oh, control. Yeah. Use Zedru. Give them your Zedru. Bounce your Zedru back to the command zone. Profit.
Recast Zedru. Synergy.
Clean lines of play.
Yeah, Zedru players are rejoicing. So, yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, it's interesting. Well, I say that a lot when I'm just like thinking, this is an interesting one.
We got an interesting post. We got a.
I'm just so interested by things, guys. I think we've said this before, but there's just a case of bad breaks. And sometimes with those linchpin commander decks, you just have a situation where you're coming up against the correct answer over and over and over again. I mean, I play a few Voltron decks, and sometimes those games really suck and you just kind of do nothing. Like, that's a reality of it,
Yeah.
When Rafiq costs 9, I am not going to win that game.
Yeah. So what do we think about the salt rating here? Again, kind of back to OP's, like, does WOTC hate hexproof? Do you hate hexproof? How salty does hexproof make you?
So with the post, they asked, is Ural suboptimal or is this player being salty? And also the question, does WOTC hate Hexproof? I think all of those can be true. I don't think WOTC likes Hexproof. I think they have built things to get around it. Granted, leadership vacuum clearly has been built to get around effects like this. Ural is in the damn art, right? Meat Hook Massacre has not been made to get rid of Hexproof. Fucking board wipes. Literally any board wipe gets around Hexproof. Wrath of God will get around Hexproof. Like, these are very basic things to come up against. And if you haven't planned for that, then I think that you are being salty in this situation. I mean, like you said, Mike, leadership vacuum is really no different from, or a very comparable effect to like an overloaded cyclonic rift. It's bouncing without targeting a player, but you know what I mean? Bouncing a creature without targeting the creature. And like Wrath of God, cyclonic rift, these are extremely common cards you come up against. And can you really fully plan for those? Maybe not. But when you come up against them, you can be frustrated in the moment, but you're not like, wow, my commander is bad and has been nerfed to the point where it's suboptimal and cannot be played. Like, that's not true. Ural is still super fun.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the salt from the Ural player is like, they should accept it. But like, I get how they're a little salty. Like, I would be like a teensy bit salty because it's like, I picked this card because it says Hexproof on it. So I'm hoping it's going to get a little less interaction. And so anytime a board wipe comes down, you're just going to be sad. Like, you got to like figure out a way to get around that. But like, if I was them, I would feel the salt in the moment. Like, I would accept it. I probably wouldn't groan at the table, but I would probably get quiet and I'd just sit there and be like, okay, like, whatever.
Yeah.
This is normally what I say when I can't do anything about stopping it.
I think there's a difference between accepting the salt and feeling a little bummed out that it's happening and saying, oh, Wizards of the Coast has designed the game where this commander is suboptimal now.
Yeah.
Like, that is not why your Ural got disrupted 3 times. Like,
No, when you put it like that, I think, yeah, WotC's done it. Like, Ural is suboptimal only now. Like, it's unfair. That's just fucking bullshit.
Well, there is this thing sometimes where I think you've talked about it before on the show, Mike, where when you are salty, you just blame everything else that you possibly can, except for 1, luck, and 2, yourself. Which are usually like the 2 highest things up there. Like, just chill and maybe have like another creature that you can load auras on in your Ural deck. Like, don't just have 1, or just be like, yeah, it's shitty luck that it came against those 3 effects in a single game. Just play again, and I bet you won't come up against those.
Mike, what do you think the salt rating is here?
I think the salt rating is pretty high. It's one of those classic moments where you're picking something because you think it does something, but then it doesn't end up doing it. And in here, you think it's dodging everything, and really, like, it doesn't do that. So you just get sad. You get sad about it. You can't avoid that. Like, nothing can dodge like all of a certain play pattern that you want it to avoid. Like, there are uncounterable spells for a reason. There's always an answer for almost every single thing in the game. And that's something that's pretty carefully designed into it, that you can't really get like hard locks on things. And this is just sort of one of those cases where you can't really lock your opponents out from interacting with your board. The best you can do is make it difficult to do that. And Hexproof totally does. So.
Unless you mindslaver them to death.
Yeah. Or like a Draneth Magistrate lock. Or the Holy Trinity of stacks, which is my favorite. Like, those hard locks do exist, but if you want to have a commander that is hexproof, indestructible, some crazy stat line so it can't get -X, like
immune to sacrifice effects.
Yeah, immune to sacrifice effects too. Yeah, put that what the fuck is that artifact?
Cannot be bounced.
Yeah, I don't even think there is like an anti-bounce thing, which they should. That's a design space that hasn't been played with yet. I was thinking about that the other day, actually.
Finally, Ural will be competitive again.
Coming to the triple S tier CDH, Ural.
Ural 2.0 cannot be returned to hand. Or command zone. Cannot go back to command zone.
That would be hilarious on a commander. What would you even do? Anyways. But yeah, like Kane, thank you for writing in. This person's just salty.
All right. Well, how about another tale from the mines?
Another tasty morsel.
Ooh, yeah. Let's dig into this one. This one came to us via a Reddit DM from user UnlimitedMe1. Thank you for sending us the salty story. And they say, okay, God, this is bad. A great way to start it off. I need to say that I'm a boy and I have a twin sister. Because of this, I've had to share everything since birth. If I didn't want to share, this would lead to fights, both physical and argumentative.
I feel that.
Siblings, am I right? High school is when I had gotten into Magic. My group played Standard, then went into Modern and eventually Commander. My sister had a recent falling out with her group of friends, so she did not have the best self-esteem or mental state at the time. She's fine now. She started hanging out with my playgroup because of this, and we were happy to have her there. After a while, she expressed interest in wanting to learn how to play Magic. And this is the confession. After 17 years so far of sharing, willingly or not, everything with her, finding something I liked that she wasn't interested in was so nice for me that I didn't want to give it up. After she asked me to teach her, I put together 2 60-card decks that were the most complex, unfriendly, and downright nasty builds my high school collection could put together. We then played, and she hated it so much because of the lengthy turns, boredom, and my purposeful unhelpfulness that she has never thought about playing MTGs.
No.
The sad part is that now I've grown up, I would love to teach her and even buy or help her build a deck. However, I don't think that time will ever come.
Oh.
No.
That is an amazing salty confessional.
Oh, that's like a real life confessional that just happens to involve magic.
Yeah.
Wow. What a tragedy.
Yeah, that's special.
What else can you even say? Like that? Yeah. Like, it's just...
What were the decks that were involved in this? Do we have any info on that?
I do have some info on that. So Unlimited Me One reached out and we were chatting about this and let me know the decks that were being used there. They say, if you're curious about the decks I made, it was a hodgepodge of Innistrad, Return to Ravnica block, and Theros. One was a blue-black Mill Bestow Devotion deck, and the other was a red-white heroic Fateful Hour human deck that I gave to her. I made the decks as complex and nonsensical as possible.
Oh, that's brutal. I have a joke with my sister where wherever we're playing a game, she'll just accuse me of having made up rules for stuff, because we'll always be playing and I'll have like read the rule book and be teaching her the game, and we'll get to a point where something like goes in my favor and she'll be like, you made that up. You made that rule up. And I think we used to try and play Magic and that just constantly happened. So yeah, it can be Magic can be such a frustrating game to learn in the best of circumstances. So the idea of trying to learn it when someone is actively sabotaging your ability to become interested.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like even now, there's like way more available content to show like people how to play. Like an Arena has like a pretty good like tutorial, but even then, it's like fucking confusing as fuck. Mostly combat, like assigning blockers, damage, all that. Like I just can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I feel like I know how easy it would be though to make it so fucking complicated that like somebody would be like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm not going to play anymore.
I mean, there's a moment when you're learning Magic that like whether it's with a pre-con or like one of those pre-made decks on Arena that you kind of start out with, like those starter decks, where as you're playing it, you see the synergy. Like you see, okay, I gain 2 life off this thing. This guy lets me pay 1 and draw a card when I gain life. I'm seeing how these puzzle pieces fit together. If you're like, okay, I have a bestow creature, I cast this in as like an enchantment, I guess, and it's an aura. And then it's like, yep. And now you mill 3 cards because you have a mill strategy as well. And you're like, but why do I want to mill? It's like, I don't know who made these decks. Like, it would be so confusing. Just be like, what is the point of this? Like, I'm just doing shit.
Yeah. Imagine sitting someone down for the first time to play and handing them Gitrog. It's like that person's never playing another game again.
Yeah. Oh man, CDH Gitrog. I think we've talked about it on this before, but what a beautifully made deck, but so fucking complicated.
Yeah.
Like, the people that can play that without the primers are like gods. It's unbelievable. I cannot imagine. The few times I played it in our pod, I had to open up the primer and like read it through for me and for everybody else, just to be like, I think this is actually doing something.
Still were like, I don't know if it's happening.
Yeah, there's still like a good 10 iterations of me actually walking through it to like see if it would work, where we were like, is this going to do anything? Yeah, that is a wild story. Your salty sins are forgiven in the eyes of the salt mine.
The mines release you.
Yeah, we release you from this. Have you guys ever encountered something like this where like, not that you, maybe that you like taught somebody something wrong or like tried to make it a little unpleasant so they wouldn't like be into it?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I know I've done this in my life. Like, there's no doubt about it that there's been like something that like I did that I didn't want my sibling to be like involved in. And so like aimed towards making it a more unpleasant experience rather than a pleasant experience for them to like maintain what I like separate from them. And I feel like most people can say that they've done it with random people too. Like, it doesn't have to be someone that's like close to you. Probably more common when it's people that aren't close to you because you're like, whatever, I don't give a shit. But like when it's like actually someone close to you, then it's much more of a feel bad. But
I feel like I've unintentionally done this before where I'm just so excited about it. I start like dumping all of the rules on someone and they're like, no, I'm going to go play something else. Thanks though.
Yeah, I am definitely just like that, Mike. Like, I've had times where I was teaching my wife how to play Magic, and she always jokes that I got so into the rules and talking about it where I was like, this is a card. Cards are pieces of paper. It's like, I didn't get that deep, but that is like the joke that she always says. I've also had the opposite where, like, when I really started to get really good at Magic and like kind of taking it seriously, I would still play friends who were taking it like fairly casually, you know? And I would play with them. And like, I remember playing with one of my friends and just beating them like 5 games in a row. And I could see how like demoralized and sad they were after. So I started like kind of throwing games so that they would continue to play with me, which is like the opposite of this, but also just as dishonest, I think. Like, oh, wow, you beat me. Should we play again? Like, do you want to play next week?
Like, it's weird. He beats me the entire time. And then always the last game, I managed to get one.
I just wanted to have someone to play with so badly.
Yeah.
so what do we think about the salt rating here?
Oh, man. I mean, this is high salt, but also a salt that everybody knows the flavor of if you have siblings. Like, there's always something in your life when you're growing up with your sibling where you're like, I need this to just be mine, and I don't want you to be a part of it. Or like, I need my space. I need my thing, you know, because they're just like, so you're living in the same house. You're like being driven in the same car all the time. They're just so in your space that you need your own thing. And it definitely like resonates. I know the taste of that salt.
Yeah. Is there holy salt? I don't think so.
Like
I just
holy
think
water?
of like confessional. Like, this is a true confessional.
Dude, it's the salty communion wafer that I mentioned in like episode 5 or 6 that you guys chided me over.
This is the salt in like the back of the cupboard that you like take out and you're like, oh, this is probably, I don't know, it's been in the back of the cupboard. I bet it's less salty. And then it's not at all. It's exactly the same.
Then you read the label out loud and you're like, oh no, it's salt.
Yeah. It's still
salt.
confirmed salt.
And like the latent humidity has just turned it into like a solid brick of salt. It's like not even granular anymore. You have to like chisel it off. It's like, oh God, it's become something much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
But I do
Love
wish I wish the best for this Reddit user too. I hope that somehow, someday, there's a deck in this person's sister's hands that they're playing Magic with.
I totally agree. And man, I just want to say, take this moment to say, RIP dual decks. I fucking loved dual decks. That was one of my favorite Wizards of the Coast products for years and years and years. Before I got into Commander, my wife and I would play all the time. You know, I've got a bunch of like 60 card decks, just like random jank. And we would go head to head. I actually had 20 at one point, and we would like line them all up and roll the D20 and pick random decks and face off. It was so fun. And one of the best things were these dual decks, because this dual deck product, you would have these two fairly balanced decks straight out of the box. Some are better than others, but they were all pretty fun to play against and came for this like great experience. And that was one of our favorite things. And it's just a bummer that that product doesn't exist anymore, because I loved it. And it's great for like teaching somebody. It's great for having that fun, balanced pick up and play experience.
I feel like the key there is the like easy to play aspect, and it's still being fun for like all levels, because it's like super hard to attain that. Like, God, what are those decks called? Jumpstart? Is that what it was? Like those were super fun to play, and you just mash two decks together. But I wouldn't say that that's like a super, like you couldn't take somebody that had like no Magic experience and like have them play those. There still was like sort of complicated synergies that like could happen, but I think that's probably one of the closer products to like those dual decks that have been out in the past few years. But just of like pick up, play, you don't need to like bring anything, super fun, but it's still kind of complicated for like a new player, truly new.
I'll take this moment to shout out my friend Matt, who I saw a couple weeks ago, played some Magic with, and he's been teaching his oldest kid to play Magic. And the way he does it is he has a deck of only creatures and then a deck of land. And basically they're drawing normally, going through the steps normally with their creature deck. And then every turn they take a land and put it out. You don't have to worry about missing a land drop, but you still have the mana resource to play with. And he says it's been super, super fun. And I'm sure he's going to like eventually introduce instants and sorceries and all that kind of stuff as you keep going.
Yeah.
Just seems like a cool way to teach someone.
You don't get to just get a land drop every turn.
Yeah.
You must build your deck correctly.
Yeah, he said he genuinely lost a game. I was like, dude, did you bust out like your CDH Prosh deck? And he was like,
Gonna learn today.
Well, shall we, guys? One more.
Hell yeah.
Dip on into our mailbag here.
Dip on in there.
This one was another Reddit DM to us with a bit of a salty story from a throwaway account. So you'd know it's good.
What does that mean? Am I scrub?
Do you not know what a throwaway account is?
No. Am I a loser?
Yeah, you are a loser. No, on Reddit, lots of people have throwaway accounts where it just is like throwaway, blah, 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 blah. You know, just like who gives a shit what the username is. And, you know, they use it to like say controversial shit. They use it to like look at porn.
It's just their other account so that they don't they don't lose karma.
It's your porn account.
It's your, yeah, obviously. Makes sense.
It's also
porn
your account.
/ bitch fest account. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You bitch on it, you lose all your karma, and you get to watch some porn too. So
yeah,
it's like
you can cuss as much as you want.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. I'm tracking. I think that's my main account. I don't know.
I think people also use it on like, am I the asshole things and like relationship advice stuff when they don't want to be like found. You know?
I think it's just whenever people want another layer of anonymity, if like some people know their account.
Yeah, like if I wanted to shit on YouTube guys, I would just use my throwaway account.
Right. Yeah. When I post salty stories, it's just, you know.
Yeah, when I post and send salty stories to myself, so we have stuff to read on the podcast, I use throwaway accounts to do it. So this post goes, "Hi there. I love your guys' podcast and want to add my own salt to the cart." Well, thank you. Let's throw it on in there. I play with a group of mine and my roommate's friend at our house on Friday nights. Friday night magic, baby. I love hanging out with everybody. I don't dislike anyone except one guy.
Oof.
You do dislike someone.
Typical. It's Morbin time.
Yeah. Oh, man. Side note, somebody said that to me like in the wild on our Twitter account the other day, and it like fucking made my day.
I love that.
I was talking with somebody, or somebody was talking about the new it's not Shazam, the new Black Adam movie that I guess was like absolute garbage. And I was like, is it worse than Morbius? And then one of our followers commented, licks teeth, it's Morbin time. It's just so good.
It's amazing.
That is really good.
Oh, I love it. Anyways, let's keep going. I love hanging out with everybody. I don't dislike anyone except one guy. But the more I get into the game and improve my play in decks, the more our games tilt me. They have zero threat assessment. The second somebody is clearly the threat, everybody dogpiles on them. We'll exile their best cards, we'll destroy lands, wipe boards, fuck their wives, and break their kneecaps.
Oh my gosh.
The problem is after removing the threat from the board, they'll keep attacking that person and continue to remove their stuff. They ignore the fact that there is now a new threat that is ahead of everybody at the table. No amount of talking or convincing works. The person who is second practically gets king made every single game. I understand how salty I sound right now, but I keep my salt to myself and don't let it affect my friendships or my play. The one person who I don't like makes this all the more worse. Of course they do. Fuck that guy. He tilts a lot and does let the game affect how he treats us at the table. He doesn't say anything rude, but to me, actions speak louder than words. On multiple occasions, he has scooped at instant speed out of frustration, and at one time, he even packed up everything and left because of a game. He often makes spiteful plays. I know this because before you can even say what card you're casting, he's already tapping mana and throwing down a counter spell because you did something to make him mad. I had my mana dork counterspelled like 5 turns after I exiled his Mind Crank Blood Chief Ascension combo off the board before it could come online. He will destroy things of players who clearly aren't the threat on the board because you did something to make him angry. I understand going to the salty side from time to time, but he literally does these sorts of things every single time we play. I don't know a good way to end this. I wrote a lot because I'm terrible at condensing my thoughts. Thanks for reading. And yes, I did make a throwaway to write this because my friends know my main. First of all, amazing salty story. Oh, that is so good. Second of all, Tony, is this you? Are you the guy in this story?
I mean, sometimes you got to send people a message. Fuck your shit. Can't just take that lying down.
Yeah, I think the problem here is apparently every time you got to send people a message.
They gotta know. The people gotta know.
There's a blind fury in casting the counterspell before you even know what is hitting the stack that frankly I kind of respect. To just be like, yeah, fucking that fucking Llanowar elves, it's gone.
I think I've done things similar to that for sure, but I don't know if I've ever gotten to the level of like countering it before. A lot of times in my head, I'm like, I don't even give a fuck what they play, but I'm gonna just like remove whatever. I've got like one piece of removal in my hand. I don't give a shit. I'm like doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's something that most players can resonate with. I think anyone who says they've never made a spite play is probably lying.
They fucking are lying. They don't even know what a spite play is if they're saying that they haven't.
Exactly. Like it just happens. Sometimes you gotta, like you said, Don, you gotta send a message, you gotta retaliate a little bit. But if you're doing that every fucking game, something has gone wrong.
Yeah. And I feel like it also depends on like how much it is. But I know in our player group, almost once a game, all of us will do something where we'll be like, you know what? I know this is the wrong play, but you fucked with me. So like now I'm gonna do it. And like whether it like leaves you completely open or just like I like sending a message, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, someone does do that. Who does that, Tony? Who could that be?
Yeah, who does that every game?
Let's solve this mystery.
Yo, you do it too. Don't even at me right now. Don't even at me.
Yeah, my main piece of advice here to this listener is to be in second place.
Yeah.
Sounds like it really is going to work out for him.
Yeah.
That would make me salty though too, especially it sounds like maybe this player that gets so cranky like gets out in the lead a lot of the time and then gets beat down like and they just don't see that that's what's going to happen, like this Blood Chief Mind Crank is Blade of the Blood Chief and Mind Crank.
Mind Crank and Blood Chief Ascension, which is like insane. It's like you just mill people and they die.
It's a win combo, so it's going to get removed. But
why didn't you let me just win the game? Yeah, I mean, I think it's really funny, the zero threat assessment. I'm going to reference something that like not many people have seen maybe. Have you guys ever seen the movie Kung Pao Enter the Fist?
Nope.
No.
Oh man, you're fucking missing out. Well, there's this scene. It's basically like it's a couple old kung fu flicks that have been edited together, and this like comedian edited his face over the protagonist's face, and then it's all redubbed with like really funny jokes. I mean, it's very like dated and slapstick, but it is wicked funny. Shout out to everybody who knows what I'm talking about. But there's this training montage part where he's like fighting these three guys with bow staffs, and they start fighting him, and he just gets hit and he goes down, and they just keep like beating his unconscious body. And they're like, he didn't say to stop. We just have to keep going. And they just keep like laying into him. And that's exactly what I think about with this. It's like, stop. He's already dead. Like, you don't need to keep fucking up this one player. And everyone's just like going in hard, like, yeah, now get his lands. Yeah, get his artifacts next. Let's fucking get this guy. You're like, I don't have anything left to give.
Yeah. Well, how are we feeling? What's that salt level on this boy?
Oh, so salty, dude. Are you kidding me? This is a shaker that is full and being just like whipped around over your head, shooting salt all over the people around you. This is like as salty as it could possibly be. I mean, somebody who's just freaking out every single game, constantly getting tilted, doing spite plays to the point where like you can sometimes justify your spite play that it's still a good move, right? You can be like, well, yeah, Mike's got something strong and Tony has something strong, but Tony slighted me, so I'm going to remove his thing. But when you're like, I'll use my counterspell on a Llanowar elf, that is beyond. That has moved beyond rationalization.
Yeah, this is the salt shaker on a diner table. Like, if it starts getting low even a little bit, someone comes by and refills it. That salt is just permanently fully up.
I almost envision it as like the Parmesan cheese, but salt. So it's like somebody's like, "Oh, do you want some salt?" And they're putting it on for you, and you're like, "That's good, okay." Like, we get it, and then they keep going, and you're like, "Oh wait, no, I'm good. I don't need any more." And they just keep pouring that salt on.
That's enough slices.
Yeah.
Makes me think of that. Here's another funny reference that very few people will get, but you guys will get. That Kylo Ren Parmesan cheese meme where he's like, more, and they're grinding the Parmesan cheese on his spaghetti. Oh, man. If I can find that video, I'll stick it in the show notes.
Yeah, you should use the audio clip from that.
Oh,
on a reel.
Yeah. Dude, I'll put the audio clip into the episode, maybe. I'll edit this out if I can.
That would be cool.
Well, I think it might be that time.
Like the time, right? Like,
I think it's the time that we look forward to every week.
Every fucking week.
The time where we say, Mike, what's the salty card of the week?
Well,
blah, 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 blah.
I was gonna say what? No
one's gonna
do a song for it this week.
And then somehow Addams Family is the first thing that popped into my head.
That's what I heard too. I was like, is that the start of the Addams Family salt?
The Addams Family salt.
Man, Freudian slip. I want the salt.
Well, our salty card of the week it's a flip card, which I don't think we've had yet, which is fun.
What flip card could be on the salty list?
What recent flip card printed within the last year, could just be completely salt inducing. Well, it's Turgid, God of Fright.
Yeah, that one.
That one. Right.
You almost forget that it even has a card back because it's so fucking
The
salty.
back is so useless. Yeah, no one plays the back. I want to play a backside, a Turgid's Lantern commander deck.
Oh man, that would be for the memes.
It would be great. So Turgid, God of Fright is 3 and 2 black for a legendary creature god. It is a menace, and it has menace, and it has whenever an opponent...
It is a menace.
Yeah.
It's a menace at the table.
Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And it's a 4/5. And I'm not even going to read the back because no one plays it.
No, let's read. Come on, read it.
Okay. And the back is 3 and a black for a legendary artifact. It says tap, target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. And then you can pay 3 and a black to untap it.
And it's called Turgid's Lantern.
Yes.
Which is perfect for going into the salty mines.
Yep. It really lets you dive in there. Tony, what about this card makes you salty?
So
not even asking
Not
if
even
it
the
makes
question.
him salty or not.
What about it?
So for the record, before we get into it, I actually did think about building the other side of this, only because I thought it would be kind of interesting, because basically it's like a get infinite mana and like win the game. Like that's what it conceivably says, because you can like untap it, do some shenanigans. The reason that I was like, I'm going to build that side of it is because the other side, so it has everyone say like, fuck you, I hate you. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the style of deck is obviously, I'm going to make you discard. I'm going to make you sacrifice your shit. And I mean, I've had this out I actually had it in my Prismatic Bridge deck, and like it like unintentionally got value. It just like happens. Like you just like gain a lot of value for it. It's like really cool. It's a really powerful effect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of annoying as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
Nobody like enjoys that style. Again, it's almost like you're telling your opponents that they can't do things because you're denying them resources from their hands and you're like making them sacrifice things. And so as a result, everybody's just going to hate you and they're not going to want to play with you. And so like you might have fun that first time you play it. No one else will. You're just going to feel bad. Like it's not even like a question. It's just obvious. Like that is what is going to happen. So like you can feel cool and good about it, but like that's where it's going to land. No one's going to enjoy that shit but you.
Yep.
So yes, it makes me salty. And if it was happening to me, I'd be so fucking pissed.
Oh yeah.
What do you think, Sam? How does this make you salty?
Yeah, I mean, I think the play pattern for me is really just the big thing. Like Tony said, you can incidentally get a shit ton of value off this card. I think we said it in an older episode that Turgid came up or something like that. But maybe it was a Reddit comment, but there is no way to build Turgid where that stuff isn't happening, right? Like even just normally playing the game, you will maybe need to discard to hand size. You will maybe need to sacrifice your fetch land or even like a shitty fetch land.
Someone might play a wheel. Like
yeah,
you never
exactly.
know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Just general through the general mechanics of play, Turgid is going to accumulate value. Then you couple that with the type of deck build that Turgid wants, which is heavy discard, heavy edict effects where you're causing people to sacrifice things. And now you have this engine where what it really is it's a theft deck with resource denial, where it says you can't discard, you can't sacrifice, because if you do, I'm going to steal your shit. And it's really kind of this like twist on a theft deck in mono black. Man, it's brutal to face because you don't really think about all the stuff that they're going to get, but they get so much. Like think of how often you're sacrificing something in a game. Like my Alesha deck would be hosed, dude. So hosed.
Completely knocked out.
I mean, Nick was playing his Tiny Bones deck the other day, which is a whole nother thing. And he got Turgid out. He runs Turgid in the 99 and got it out. And it was like in a single turn, he played one thing that made us all discard one card, and it was like a huge deal. Like we had to really think about it. Thankfully, I had some Graveyard Exile stuff that was able to save us from him getting too much value, but he still got like pretty decent value off.
Yeah, he was 4 mana away from getting an Imperial Recruiter.
Yeah, and he was out on like, it was only out for like 1 or 2 turns before it got removed. It was crazy. It's crazy how little it needs to go off. Yeah, it gets me salty. It's not fun to play against.
Where on the list does it sit, Mike?
So this right now is the 18th salty card.
That feels good. That feels right. How do you feel about this, Mike?
I think that this one totally makes sense as a high salt card. I think, we've talked about so much why it feels oppressive to play against, but I think it's, again, also one of those commanders that, since it's such a kill on sight, like when you drop it, if you're the person playing it, you're still going to get your commander removed all the time, and that's going to make you salty. So like, no matter what's happening with the Turgid at the table, someone's getting salty. It just depends which side that's on.
Well, that's because WOTC hates Turgid and has designed cards to specifically remove her from the game.
Yep. It is
Bullshit,
suboptimal because of that.
I was going to say, she's suboptimal now.
Yeah. That's why you just can't, not even CEDH viable, just absolute bottom tier. It's a bummer because I think it's a really interesting space. Like you were hinting at this, Sam, like it's a really interesting space for black to be in, this theft style deck. And they just either spoiled or just printed. I forget, but there's another different take on Turgid coming out that was spoiled recently that I think people are excited about. I don't know if
like
it's another
Turgid, someone was calling it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like once per turn or
right. It's either once per turn or like it has to be, but it's like anytime they die or something. I might look that up at some point, but I think it's an interesting space. So it's a bummer that the card is kind of just too powerful for its own good. In some ways, it just makes the game very one track once it comes out.
I mean, you kind of hinted at it, Mike. For those who don't know, Turgid does have a very powerful CDH build. Hire actually played it recently on the Professor's Shuffle Up and Play show. He had like a CDH special. He still lost to Adnos, but did some like crazy shit on the stack. It was really cool to see it go off. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those decks that, regardless of how you build it, it's going to have some element of it being oppressive, again, just through like the typical mechanics of the game. And then it's hard to say what like the floor is for that power level and what table it would feel balanced at. Mm-hmm. That's not CDH or really high power, because it's just very oppressive. Tony, you have intrigued me with a Turgid's Lantern deck. And I wonder if you built it specifically only around Turgid's Lantern, sleeved it in such a way where only Turgid's Lantern was out, and you sat down and you were like, this is my Turgid's Lantern deck. I am going to only cast Turgid's Lantern. If I ever cast Turgid, I will concede. Like I will, I guarantee you I will not. And because it is a pretty dope infinite mana outlet.
Yeah. Like that's how you win the game.
Or just big mana outlet. You don't even need infinite. Like if you can get big mana with like Black Market or something.
What is that big X sorcery that?
Oh, Torment of Hailfire.
Yeah, I mean, Torment of Hailfire. So Turgid's Lantern is basically a single instance of Torment of Hailfire for a single player. And then you're just busting it out over and over and over and over again, which is cool, kind of cool.
It's also one of the only cards they're so reluctant to print discard effects at instant speed. And Turgid's Lantern they have the option to sack a permanent or lose through life, but you can sometimes get someone to discard at instant speed, which is neat too.
Most likely though, at that point, you're just winning though, right?
Yeah. With the infinite,
probably.
The infinite light. Man,
yeah, but that was definitely what I was thinking about building. Might still build someday.
I think that would be kind of fun to play against, especially like a more like casual level, like 3 or 4 card infinite mana combos.
Yeah.
In mono black, like that's hard.
I think what would happen is you would just wind up putting it in kind of like a bunch of delay so that you live kind of cards and then like tutor out the like combo pieces. I feel like you would want to, for it to be like decent, you would still need a lot of tutor effects and still wouldn't be that good. Look, for a hot second, I was looking at making it a CDH deck kind of before the Turgid deck came out, which just plays better not doing that.
So
And
much better.
Like,
so good.
which is sad because I wanted it to be like, oh, like get infinite mana, do the thing. But
I mean, you could still have that as your win con actually in a normal Turgid CDH. That would be interesting. Like have just some sack outlet so that once you have gotten enough value, you just sack Turgid, recast Turgid's Lantern, and use your infinite mana outlet as a win con.
But then you're casting Turgid.
Yeah, totally.
Which is not allowed.
Right. You've already lost at that point.
I do, as much as I don't like this card, I do want to shout out the Kaldheim God design space, which I think is really cool, specifically for Standard, where it really rewards having both sides of the card out at a single moment. Because having Turgid's Lantern out with Turgid is super powerful. You're forcing somebody to sack or discard, or at least grind down their life total in like a standard format. I can see, I mean, I don't play Standard, but in a standard format, I can see how cool that would be. And I think a lot of the Kaldheim gods have that in common, where the two sides synergize with themselves and it rewards you for running, multiples in like a 60 card deck.
So what you're saying is you need Sakashima in the deck so that you can have them both out at the same time.
Yeah, just cheat and put a blue card in your deck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then you just make it Eureka, right? So that you can run them both. And like Eureka,
at that point,
like,
they're bad.
Eureka's not powerful, so it's like fine.
Yeah. Oh man. Speaking of decks that you can't build weak, Eureka. The CDH version of it and the high power casual version I run right now are just like 10 cards different.
I hate that. All right. Well, that's it for the salt card of the week. Hope you've been sufficiently salted.
I feel salted.
Well, thanks, Mike. And that's it for the episode. Thanks again for tuning in to the Mail Time episode. If you want to be included on the next Mail Time episode, email us your salty stories to thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com. As always, we ask you to keep those short, sweet, and to the salt. And or you can also DM them to us on Reddit. We're the Howling Salt Mine on Reddit. Or you can send them to us on Instagram if that works better for you at the Howling Salt Mine. Or fuck it, Twitter. DM us on Twitter. All of them. On Twitter, we are Howling Salt Mine. We couldn't get the. There's a limitation on characters.
Get wrecked.
I just want to throw in one more big shout out here to our buddy Devin Burnett for this amazing art. If you're in North Carolina, hit him up, get some sweet tattoos from him, hang out with him. I mean, he just seems like a super, super cool guy. Dude, fucking get a tattoo and then challenge him Yu-Gi-Oh style to a Magic card game. Be amazing.
Duel.
When you're all tired and woozy from a 4-hour tattoo session.
Can you imagine 4-hour tattoo session? Then you just like out of your pocket, just put a fucking deck and slap it on the table.
I'll duel you for it. Yeah, but seriously, check out Devin's stuff. He's just a really amazing artist, and his tattoos are fantastic. Super appreciative to have that art from him and to have him be a part of the Howling Salt Mine family.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
This episode is coming out the day, like this right now, as you listen to this. If you're listening to it on the day it comes out, we are in Las Vegas at Magic 30. So try to find us, I guess it's the day before Magic 30, but hey, hit us up, try to find us, DM us if you want to like play some games. We got some events we're doing, we got some other things we're going to be doing, but yeah, track us down, at least say hi. We got those tokens that we can give out, and hope we see you there. Peace.
Why aren't you going to be like, blah, 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 stay salty, and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
Blah, 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 blah. Stay salty, and don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
Hot.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt
Mine. I think we actually said it in an older episode. I think we said it in an older Episode. I think we said it in an older episode.
They took our episodes.